Hello, lovely witches. This is Dawn from Aurora Dawn. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. This is part 7 of my little series, Shadow Work series. And this one, we're going to talk about the inner child. This is big. This is huge, you guys. All of you have an inner child at many inner, well, you can use the generic term inner child to mean all of your inner children, but we have traumatic experiences, and so that part of our soul splinters off at whatever age you were. And so at 6 years old you had a traumatic experience, part of your soul slivers off and hides in your shadow, and until you nurture and heal whatever it is that made that child sliver off, that child remains in your shadow and acts out or in and responds with fear and ends up controlling your behavior. And this is where you're a grown-ass adult and still you're afraid of something that you were afraid of when you were a child. Well, that inner child is still afraid and is still acting out and influencing your behavior as a result. So if you're scared of redheads, especially if they have a beard, what happened when you were a child? Did somebody with that description, hurt you in some way? And now as an adult, you still have those feelings, and it might have been when you were like 3 years old and you don't even remember it. But here you are as here you are as an adult, and you are having trouble with red hair men with beards. Okay? And that's really how it works. And very simply put, that's how it works. All right, I want to read you. Where'd it go? Okay. This is a quote from John Bradshaw, who's the author of Homecoming: Reclaiming and Championing Your Inner Child. A child's development is arrested when feelings are repressed, especially the feelings of anger and hurt. A person grows up to be an adult with an angry, hurt child inside of him. This child will spontaneously contaminate the person's adult behavior. All right, so if you ever wonder, why do I keep lashing out at certain people? Why do I keep doing this? It's because that wounded inner child is still acting out, trying to protect itself from the trauma that it experienced when it slivered off, when it fractured. All right, so when we turn a blind eye to our inner child, it continues. So the answer is to nurture that wounded inner child, so that child feels the nurturing emotionally that it did not get when it was going through that traumatic experience. It felt unsafe. That child felt unsafe, and still today feels unsafe. So you nurturing your own emotional needs is going to go a long way for all of your inner children, the wounded inner children, to help them feel more comfortable and calm, so they're not influencing your adult behavior. Okay? Now, however old you are, that's how many years you have gotten into this habit of allowing your ego to get into the driver's seat, which is your ego is using those subconscious programs to influence your behavior, and it's coming from those inner children that are, wounded and scared. So you making yourself feel comforted, feel valuable, feel nurtured is going to help your wounded inner children to feel more comfortable and to not act out so much. So, but you still need to go in there and find out, well, what was the traumatic experience, what was the emotional response, and heal it. And that happens later in shadow work. Right now I'm laying the groundwork for you, helping you understand and take care of your emotions, so that when you do dig into your shadow, that when you start pulling that stuff up, it's scary. You know how to handle it. You know what to do. So you don't get scared and give up on doing your shadow work. So now that you're an adult, you no longer have those beliefs necessarily in your conscious mind that you developed as a child, but the beliefs are still embedded in your subconscious, so they can be triggered. And when that happens, that wounded inner child becomes afraid and unsettled and scared, and so starts to act out and influencing your behavior. Okay, let's move on. Healing the inner child. And this is class 3 in the self-mastery for witches course that I put together. Just a little bit about me. I am a spiritual life coach. I went through a school that teaches people to be life coaches, spiritual life coaches. Holistic Learning Centers. Hugh Del Conzo is the owner, and he also teaches this. He comes from a long background of counseling and social work kind of stuff, and he put this school together to teach people how to be life coaches. So I went through the program as a client of his, and he brought me through, and I healed myself of a lot of things, and then he taught me how to help other people. And so I put together this course where I can then use the same thing that I learned from Hugh and help you heal yourself like I healed myself. Okay, so that's where I'm coming from. That's where all this information is coming from. I made so many incredible breakthroughs, and my students make these incredible breakthroughs. It blows my mind. And just the amazing things that they overcome and change, and a lot of it becomes very, very easy once they learn how to do these, use the tools and the guidance and the support that comes with this course. Okay, enough of that. Your wounded inner child feels unsafe, so it's important to make them feel safe, feel valuable, feel nurtured. So when you go to your wounded inner child, or just to yourself, and validate your feelings, that goes a long way with your wounded inner children. And I do, I don't teach it in this course. I might actually start including it, but there's a ritual that I go through, that I do, where I meditate, and there's a bunch of prep work that I do, and then I meditate and I call in my wounded inner child, and I call out to whoever, whatever age, I don't know who is ready to come forward and work with me. And when I do this, it's usually the first thing that comes through. If I haven't worked with that child yet, the first thing that comes through is something very ugly, very scary, and it's a protective mechanism. It's saying, don't come in here, don't mess with these programs, don't mess with what's in your shadow, because it's there to help keep you safe and to survive. Well, I need to heal my wounded inner child, so I stand in compassion and I continue to reach out to that ugly whatever is showing up, so that my wounded inner child can feel the love and nurturing that I am offering it, and will drop the barrier, the fear vision that it's bringing to me. And once it drops that, then I can communicate to that little child, and over and over and over, I'll see what age that child is, and I'll communicate with them, and they'll say what they need from me to make them feel safe enough to come back to me. And sometimes I'm able to make the adjustment right then and there, and they come back, and other times they go back into the shadow, and I've got to work on myself. But what is really interesting is that I can tell how old they are, and then if I go back in my memory, I'll remember the traumatic situation, the experience. So and so one time it was a 6-year-old me coming forward, and I remember, hey, that's when I was 6 years old. It was when my mother left me home alone for the first time, and I was scared out of my effing mind. My mother told me that don't answer the phone, don't answer the door, because if somebody finds out that I left you home alone, then they would call the police and take me away. Scared the effing crap out of me. Seriously, I sat there. It was raining outside. I sat in front of the door with my umbrella, waiting for them to come take me away. I was 6 years old. It was the first time I was left alone. It was scary. I was scared. That was a very traumatic experience, sitting there in front of the door, and there's like a little crack in the door so I could see out, and I kept looking out. Oh, don't see anybody. I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to wait. I got my umbrella because it's raining out, so when they come and take me away, I'll at least have my umbrella to keep me dry. That is crazy. And that was a very traumatic experience. And that little girl still lives inside of me, still scared that somebody's going to take me away, feeling abandoned. That was the belief that I learned. Actually, I learned when I was, when I was born, my dad was not able to be there. It wasn't that he did not want to be there. It wasn't that he abandoned us, but he wasn't there. And I was just an infant. Dad wasn't there. So, and then later at 2 years old, my parents got a divorce, and my dad was in Vietnam doing his, he was in the army. So I learned that Dad's not here. He's abandoned me. Whether, what's the truth of that? He had to do his duty, right? He had to do a tour of duty that was required of him because he was in the military and it was the Vietnam War. But I was 2 years old. I didn't understand that. I didn't know what that meant, that he had to go away. And then my mom divorced him, so he never came back to us. So in my little tiny mind, I thought he abandoned me. And that meant I wasn't good enough. I wasn't valuable enough. I was not worthy of my father's love. All right, so that's what I learned. And then at 6 years old, it's being confirmed that I need to be abandoned. And then when I was 10, 11, I went to live with other people. And again, it's being confirmed that I need to be abandoned, that other people are more important. Whatever they're going through is more important than what I need. And so I keep getting shifted off to other places and other people, or left alone. So I learned that I have to be abandoned. That's just part of life. But that wounded inner child is scared. So then I have to nurture that little girl, that little 6-year-old girl, so that she feels loved and safe, and knowing that I will never abandon her. Then when I speak that to her, she feels safe enough to come back to me. All right? And so if I remember right, she asked me to be more feminine. That's not easy. I'm a tomboy from the get-go. I play in the dirt, I don't have time for nail polish and makeup, I play with the weeds and stray animals, and I'm definitely a dirt bunny. And I love, just doing things that are not girly. And I think there's something there though. And the fact that this wounded little girl inside of me said that she wanted me to be more feminine really speaks to me, because when I did not have a dad, I felt like I took it upon myself to be more male, to bring in more male energy to protect my mom, because my dad wasn't there to protect her. So I took it upon myself to do that. And I feel like that's why I carried so much male energy, and why I was so good at sports, and I excelled at more of those things that boys did rather than what girls did. I wasn't interested in playing house. I wasn't interested in home ec. I was more interested in going camping and fishing and learning how to survive out in the woods, So, what I understood from it was that I need to balance male and female energy, okay? And then she would feel comfortable coming back to me, feel safe. And your wounded inner child has clues for you to understand your subconscious programming, your beliefs that you're holding on to that are deep in your subconscious that you are unaware of. And when you get into shadow work, you learn how to pull those beliefs up so that you can change them. You can heal them and change them. These though are your core ego defenses. So when you get triggered, the ego gets into the driver's seat, you fall back into these beliefs and use them to defend yourself. So somebody, is saying, communicating something to me that I interpret, you're not good enough, then I feel abandoned, I isolate, I pull away. So, okay, enough, I'm walking away. I'm not going to fight for this because I've always been abandoned. That's the way it always has been. That's the way it has to be, because that's how I was taught when I was a baby. So here I am in a situation where I need to push and fight and make things clear, and I give up because I'm being abandoned, which is just the way it's always been. Okay, hopefully that is clear. So I want to say that when you do this emotional nurturing, that you will find your growth accelerate dramatically. It's going to go through the roof. The other thing I want to talk about is we've all been wounded by people in our life from childhood up. Do not go and confront them. Please do not do that, especially right now. If you go through my course and at the end of it you really feel like you need to confront somebody, then maybe, okay. But most of the time you can clear all of that up through guided meditation. And I have a lot of exercises in this course that helps you do that. But don't confront them, because it could, especially if they're not self-aware, if they're not conscious, if they're not willing to see how they did something wrong or hurt you or in any way, and they're not open to that at all, they could lash out against you and make things worse. Okay, so please don't do that. And I repeat that several times through this course because it's so important to remember. You do not have to go confront them. You can do that in a meditative state and visualization. You can unplug from them. You can clear things up. You can, and I've done this many times. My foster father has passed on, and there has been unfinished business. And so I visualize him and I talk to him and I confront him that way. And I think now I'm strong enough that I could, if he were still alive, face him face to face physically. But it took a long, long time to get to this place. So I advise you not to confront anybody from your childhood, all right? Unless they're conscious now of it and they're trying to make amends to you anyway, then it's a lot different. But if they're in resistance and not willing to acknowledge their part in the trauma, then I highly advise you not to pursue that. Okay, Tarzan. Remember the story Tarzan? Okay, so Tarzan was lost in the jungle when he was a baby. And these apes took him in as their own, and they raised him. So now, as he's an adult, and Tarzan acts like an ape. Is that his fault? No. He was raised by apes, so why would he not act like an ape? But he's human, right? So he has a choice now as an adult. He can learn to act like a human if he wants to, or he can continue to act like an ape. It's not his fault. It's not the ape's fault for teaching him how to be an ape, right? Okay? So now as an adult, if he wants to interact with the human world, if you will, the modern world, he would have to change his behavior so that he could blend in with humans. So now as an adult, that's his responsibility. We have a responsibility to nurture our own emotional needs, to rescue those soul fragments, our wounded inner children, and bring them back, heal them, and become emotionally mature, self-mastered adults. That is our responsibility. It is not our fault. It is not your fault that you behave the way you behave. You were taught as a child. You learn from the environment. And it's not your parents' fault either, because they weren't taught anything else, right? They weren't taught how to nurture their own emotional needs, therefore they couldn't teach you, right? So it's like, okay, you're in algebra, right? And your parents have never taken algebra, so they can't teach you algebra. You have to learn algebra from somebody who knows algebra. Hopefully that's clear. So we're not looking for fault. That's another thing that's very big that I repeat throughout this course. You are not to look for whose fault it is. If you get caught up in the blame game, you become a victim and cannot change. So it's very important not to look to whose fault it is, but recognize, my parents taught me this, I was this age, and this is the traumatic experience, this is the emotions I felt. Those things, just the facts. That's all you need. If you get caught up in the blame game, then you're distracted and you're not going to be able to heal. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. Please let me know if it's not in the comments, or just if this is a aha moment for you. I want to hear about it too. Please, I love hearing from you, and it helps me know that I'm on the right track. I'm explaining things well enough. All right, so thank you for watching. That's all for now. Thank you for watching. And next video, we're going to actually do the exercise of nurturing your own emotional needs. All right, so it's just a guided visualization kind of thing, but it's the wording that is so important. Okay, so I'm going to let you go for now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your comments. Do something today that brings you joy and makes you feel good. Love you all, and until next time, blessed be.